got some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders have gone out and they have signed Amari Cooper. My name is Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and I'm going to give you my instant reaction, my thoughts around the silver and black, bringing back Amari. Also coming up here on today's show, I'm going to talk about the 18 players, yes, 18 players that the silver and black cut today, and at the very end of the show, the Jakobi Meyers trade rumors, because I do not think the signing of Amari Cooper should impact Jakobi at all. And if it does, shame on you, Raiders. So we are bringing back Amari, and he's not a wide receiver 1. He's not a wide receiver 2. You are hoping that he is your wide receiver 3. I personally believe he is going to be wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 on this team. The reason why this is such a big story, and if there's one person that's happy, it's going to be my wife. Alex's favorite player, actually, is Amari Cooper. From when he went to the Cowboys, she went to a game with her dad, he caught a touchdown. She's going to be ecstatic. And if you're happy about this move, I want you to hit that like button. And I understand if you're excited. And I'm not going to rip anybody for not being excited. Quite frankly, I hope Amari Cooper throws up 2 middle fingers to me like Jamal Adams has been doing all offseason, because I didn't think Jamal Adams was going to be a good move. Now, you drafted somebody number 4 overall back in 2015. You traded him to the Dallas Cowboys in 2018 because he gave up on the Raiders. So for an organization that's been preaching commitment to excellence a lot, I do find it a little bit strange that the girl that told you she didn't want to date you, now you're bringing her back after multiple years. There's been a lot of speculation. Could this impact Jakobi? I personally do not think that it does. But when you look at Amari Cooper's stats over the 2024 season, it was with the Browns and it was with the Buffalo Bills. I should note, when you look at the final few games with Amari when he was with Buffalo, they benched him in the playoff games. He was not good enough to play for Buffalo in the playoff games. They benched him. Now, they did start him in one of the games, but the other 2 games, he was not good enough to get on the field, and that's kind of what my big concern is right now with Amari, because he's not going to be somebody that's going to block. He's not going to block for you. He also is somebody that has had a serial drop problem. On top of that, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So for a Raiders football team that wants to be physical and wants to preach competition, if you get a healthy and motivated Amari Cooper, it's going to be a good signing. If you get the Amari Cooper that has been playing football the past years, you're not going to like this move. So this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, and I want to know, do you like the move of the Raiders signing Amari Cooper? It's a 1-year deal. I do not have the numbers yet on it. I'm hoping it is at the absolute maximum value of $5 million, and that's with incentives. Give me a yes. Give me a no. My answer coming up here in just a moment. I'm going to say no. I do not like the move of the Raiders going out and signing Amari Cooper. Is it a depth move? Yes. Is it somebody that can be good? Obviously. And there's a lot of players out there that can be good. But I think the optics of this happening today, I really don't think it's a smart move by the Raiders, because what this says to me, and maybe it says it to Jakobi, is you're bringing in a player that gave up on you. And again, Amari Cooper gave up on the Raiders. And then you do that on the same day that your number 1 wide receiver requested a trade, a dude that has done nothing but the right thing for this organization, showing up to non-mandatory things. Jakobi Meyers is such a more of an important asset to this team than somebody like Amari Cooper. Now, do I think Amari is going to be buried on that depth chart a little bit? Yes, I do. After the 18 roster moves that the Raiders have made, this is what our current wide receiver depth chart does end up looking like. To me, the signing of Amari is actually bad news for Alex Bachman, and I think it's bad news for Tommy Millott, because those were 2 players that I thought potentially could have made the roster, but because they are on the roster bubble, it's not looking very good for at least one of those names over there. And if Amari can go out there and just show that he can be a reliable veteran, and maybe that's what this organization believes in, maybe that's what Pete and Spytech believe in. You know, they believe in veterans because it's worked out at some other positions for us this offseason, mainly linebacker, bringing in Jamal, bringing in Jermaine Pratt, bringing in a Devin White. They've had a little bit of a resurgence, and, you know, you've heard this organization say resurgence a few times. Maybe they're trying to get a resurgence out of Amari Cooper. But in terms of Jakobi Meyers now, Jakobi Meyers a few hours ago, he requested a trade. I did talk about the possibility of this happening last week on the Raiders Report. So if you're not subscribed, again, you got to be subscribed to the show. There's not another person on the planet that keeps you up to date around the Raiders more than myself. You could say it's cocky. You could say what you want. I'm going to say it's a cold, hard fact. There's a reason why we've been the #1 most watched Raiders show for 7 years. There's a reason why we have 198,000 subs. Nobody has commitment to excellence the way we do. But we bring that because that's what the nation brings every single day. And I see it down right here, down in the comment section. So when I see Amari Cooper signing and then the trade request of Jakobi Meyers, I'm not going to lie to you. This team means a lot to me. I got it tatted on my leg. I bleed silver and black. I'm a little bit sick to my stomach over how today has gone. And I say that because earlier this offseason, I looked at all of y'all, and I said, I think the way John Spytek runs a team is very similar to the way that I would run a team. So when things go the complete opposite of what I would do, I'm like, man, like I don't agree with that statement that I once made. So for Jakobi to request a trade, there are a lot of teams that are interested in it. And I think if you're the Raiders, if you're serious about keeping Jakobi, you got to do it quick. Because signing Amari a few hours after he requested trade, I just don't think that it looks good. You can say that it doesn't matter. I personally think it is bad optics all around. The analogy that we gave earlier on the live show is your girlfriend looks at you, and she's been great to you. She's been loyal to you. She's handled the ups and downs. She goes, I want you to commit to me. I want you to put a ring on my finger. I want you to give me, I don't know, to marry me. And you go, all right. And then you go out on another date with somebody else that broke up with you a few years ago. I just don't think it's a good look for the Las Vegas Raiders from top to bottom. But, Amari, if you do good for this team, even though I don't like the signing, on a game day, you're damn right I'm going to be screaming Coop. I care about the Raiders winning. And if Amari Cooper makes this team better, I am a man enough, I am humble enough, I'm a Raider fan enough to admit I was wrong. And damn it, I mean it, I freaking hope that I'm wrong. Nothing would make me happier than Amari Cooper proving me wrong. Coming up next here on the show, the Raiders made 18 roster moves ahead of NFL Cut Day. And if you do not know, the Raiders had to trim their roster all the way down to 53 by Tuesday, August 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to be live earlier on the Raiders Report tomorrow, 2 hours before that deadline, discussing all of the moves that the Raiders are making. Before I give you my initial thoughts on the 18 players that have been cut by the Raiders, today's show is sponsored by our good friends, PrizePicks. And I'm happy that PrizePicks is honestly back with us, and I say that because that means football season is back. And when football's not going on, there's a lot of nights I'm just twiddling my you-know-what, and I don't know what to do. Luckily, PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. If you want to know some picks that Chugs and I are rolling with for this weekend, we took the more on Arch Manning and the less on Garrett Nussmeier. Whether you want to rock with Texas, whether you want to rock with LSU, if you want to rock with us and you want to go with that lineup, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS. You're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game, and if you're trying to run your game all season long, there is one place to do it and one place only. That is with our sponsor, PrizePicks. So now let's get into the 18 moves that the Raiders made today. And I knew that there was a few moves. I know the show that I did, I don't know, a few hours ago at this point on Jakobi where I about lost my freaking mind. I talked about 4 moves. The first 4 moves that I already discussed were Amari Gaynor. He ended up being waived, though he posted on social media that happened. Gottlieb, he also was another player that ended up getting waived. Chris Collier, the running back, ended up getting moved on from. And then Quadir Ishmael. If you want to hear more of a rundown on those 4 players, I discussed that on my Jakobi Meyers trade video a little bit earlier. So that means we have 14 players left to talk about in terms of who the Raiders decided to move on from today. First guy coming up here is going to be Parker Clements. He was a UDFA this past season, was an offensive tackle, and, he had his struggles from time to time. I think the Raiders are going to keep somewhere between 8, 9, and 10 offensive linemen. So this move is not going to surprise me at all. Another player that got moved on from, Jared Hufford, another 2025 UDFA from Iowa State. This one, not surprising at all. The Raiders made this move. Marquez Callaway, he was signed recently, probably like 2 weeks ago at this point. And this was another one. Not really surprised that the Raiders decided to move on from him. Philip Dorsett is a move that I don't want to say I'm shocked by, but he was a player that I do actually think was more on the roster bubble than what people actually realize. He had some good connections, but this was one of those moves and probably best for both sides. He might get another opportunity elsewhere. Colin Johnson, the gigantic wide receiver at 6'6", the Raiders decided to move on from him, so that's why you could kind of see that wide receiver room shaping out a little bit the way that it did. Linebacker Michael Barrett, he was brought in right after the NFL draft, and he has done more winning than anybody at the University of Michigan, and you know how much Michigan means to Spy Tech and Tom Brady, so I thought this was a good player to bring in, just from that competitive standpoint, that compete mindset. One player that actually deserves some credit, because I thought that they played a lot better in the preseason than maybe what they got credit for. I never had Jalen Smith in a 53-man roster video, but I did think that he played better than what he got credit for. I'll be very transparent with you. I think the signing of Amari Cooper could be compared to a signing of Jalen Smith. I don't think it's a sexy move. I think it's a big name that your mom and your dad and your girlfriend are probably going to know, but how much are they actually going to help you win? Time's going to tell. Tank Booker Jr., UDFA, big boy from SMU, with a lot of the rumors that happened earlier this offseason around forehead kisses. Christian Wilkins, sorry, I couldn't think of his name. Around Wilkins, I know, probably shouldn't have said that, but F it, it's been a long day. You guys can laugh at me all you want. It's been a long day, right? But around Tank Booker, we talked about him because that was a big body guy on the interior, and we thought, all right, could this be somebody that gets a little bit of extra work? Because when Wilkins first went down, they started getting Tank Booker a little bit of that extra work. Lecky Fotu also at the time was in a walking boot. Keandre Coburn, another move, and this was a sneaky dude. When they first signed him, I thought maybe he had a shot. He had his ties with Texas, and Pete Carroll's ties run really, really deep with Steve Sarkisian. So Coburn was a player that I thought probably not likely to make it, but could have been a name to keep in mind. UDFA Ja Joyner is going to be another name that I'll throw out here, and I find it interesting that the Raiders decided to still have, as of right now, Jafari Harvey still on the team, but they decided to move on from Joyner. The highest graded UDFA that I had was Joyner when the Raiders first signed all their UDFAs, but there hasn't been too much buzz around him, and Harvey's been somebody that I think has been standing out a little bit more. One name, and probably the biggest name that breaks my heart, is Andre Carter, and I say that because Andre Carter is better than Charles Snowden. You can agree with it if you want. You can disagree with it if you want. But to me, we have some already decent run stoppers that play defensive tackle and defensive end. Where I'm concerned that we're going to struggle this season is the ability to get after the quarterback. And, Carter's been a player that when you turn on the tape, he looks a lot better on tape. He looks like he's a lot quicker. He can get after the quarterback. And I think that this is a mistake by the Raiders. If you don't keep him on the practice squad, I think it's going to be a big old swing and a miss, because also Charles Snowden's going to get it suspended this season for 3 games for that DUI situation that he had. So, to pick Charles Snowden over Andre Carter, I think is a bad evaluation by this team. John Humphrey, cornerback from USC, he was a UDFA in 2025. Not really somebody that I thought was going to end up making this roster. Definitely going to be somebody, though, to keep your eye out for the practice squad. Sam Webb, he's been there. He's done that with this team. Don't think that they keep him on the practice squad this season because he's going in on his 3rd year. And for practice squad rules, you are technically allowed to keep 6 players on your team that have 2 or more years of accrued seasons. Or technically it's 3 or more, I guess is how I should say it. For Webb, I don't really think that he ends up making this squad, and I don't really see why we would keep him. Another UDFA here, Hudson Clark, safety. He played at Arkansas. He did a lot of good stuff on special teams, and that's kind of what he's used for. If the Raiders do end up keeping him, it's going to be more for that special teams body of work from top to bottom. But overall, today was one eventful day, and the crazy part is we're not even close to this day being over with. If you were having good today, if you're one of the 3,000 people that pulled up for the breaking news of the Raiders signing Amari Cooper, for the Raiders cutting 18 players, for the Jakobi Meyers trade rumors, then also pull up tomorrow. We're going to be live, and we're going to wait for the Raiders to trim that roster down. And as soon as they announce it, which has got to be by 4 p.m. Eastern time, I'm already going to be live on this channel. If it happens before, I might just go live a little bit early. I'll be very transparent. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And I want to be very clear about this. I will root for Amari Cooper, just like I think all you Raider fans should root for Amari Cooper. But that doesn't mean that I have to like the move. You're allowed to dislike something and still root for him. Because he's wearing silver and black, I'm going to root for him.